This is Moneyline Mania with Chaz and the crew.
Chaz, after the Fantastic Four was on last week, now it's just you, my friend. How are you?
I just pointed. Next, because those guys are good. We got Jonathan, John, and Wes. So Jonathan is the number one guy on a website. This is a website that sells picks. And then John from JMF Sports was a New York kid that went to Vegas, figured out how to bet good, and that's what he does. He makes his money betting, his second income. He does the contest, so he's a proxy, and he has guys that give him money for plays. And then Wes is a very astute money guy, and he falls right into the numbers with him.
Wes is Wes.
Worldwide Wes.
There's no show out there like Sports Betting Weekly where for an hour a week, we sit on the internet, pick games that are happening right now, and give you plays that are happening right now. You gave me a block of commercials. Sure. It's like 3 minutes long. We give out the play, we come back from the commercial, it already cashed. Because in hockey, you could say it's already a goal. It's going to be 2.5 goals for the third period. Bada boom, bada bing. In hockey, you could score. The other day, they scored, 3 times in a minute? Toronto. Well, you know what? When you're a sports fan, you pay attention like that. What happens is, in soccer, you can't benefit there. Because in soccer, live action, they hold your bet for 35 seconds. I had at least 3 or 4 times this year where they kicked my bet out, and I said, son of a... I knew it. And I go to this game, and I open it, and there it is. The thing that I was betting happened. They don't do that in hockey, but you got to pay attention because the lines come on quick. They'll slow to adjust. Right after a goal, there'll be a period where they'll say action. They take everything off the board, OTB, and then they come back. I always thought, they're so bizarre that the same initials that can mean off-track betting mean off the board.
Bogarts is now a Padre. It doesn't make any sense. They're overpaying Tatis $300 million. Unless they're planning to trade him, they bring in Bogarts, who is a shortstop. Are they moving?
Yeah, I don't know does he want to play the outfield or is he saying I don't care? They came out with a possible starting lineup in the paper.
He was in left field.
DH, I think they had unknowns.
Right, because they lost Will Myers.
Ooh.
God bless Will Myers, because he was one of the first guys. Part of it wasn't his fault. Everybody's better off in that relationship.
That team is loaded. And now that they brought in Bogarts, how the hell are they going to pay you-know-who next year?
One of the lowest markets in the league in terms of San Diego. San Diego is the 6th biggest city, but it's not in terms of TV. It's not in terms of bodies,
They just gave Bogarts almost $300 million. They gave Tatis $300 million. They have Machado $300 million. And now they're going to have to pay Soto $400 million. How the hell are they going to do that?
Doesn't look on paper like good business dealings.
Why don't we get into our Moneyline Mania? Here we go.
What did Wes say?
Panthers -4 cover.
You got any opinion on that one?
I don't think the Panthers are going to cover this game. I think Seattle's going to kill them. And being that it's in Seattle, it's supposed to rain on Sunday, I think the advantage absolutely goes to Seattle. It's going to be slippery. It's going to be cold. It might stop raining in the middle of the game, but still, it's going to be harder to run. Kenneth Walker won't be in this game. They're still a good running team. They have those 2 powerhouse offensive tackles. So I expect Seattle to absolutely dominate this game offensively. I think Geno Smith will throw closer to 300 yards. He'll have 2 touchdown passes, maybe a run or 2 into the end zone. So I do not believe the Carolina Panthers cover in this game.
Yeah, my Easy Sports data shows that Carolina on the road in their last 9 games in the first half has scored 10 or less. In the second half, Seattle this year in their last 9 games has scored more than 13 points in 8 of 9. Now, that 13 points is an important number because a lot of times the second half lines are like 22. You need somebody to get 13 and you need somebody else to get 10 if you're looking to get over 22. You know how I feel about Wes's pick?
Yes.
If Wes tells me to bet something, I bet it. I was doing some handicapping today, and it really isn't rocket science. You got the information. I have a program that I have to put all the numbers in, and it crunches the numbers. I have one spreadsheet where I got to put in all the teams. So it's an alphabetical order, and I have to put in the number. Vegas was 1, the Rams are 2, Baltimore's 3, and I usually go off the number because when you go to a casino, you don't say I want the Steelers to win. He wants the number on the board.
It's supposed to rain in the morning on Sunday and then clear up, so it's going to be very wet. So who does that benefit? I think it's going to benefit the better running team and the team that's played there and plays very well.
It's
well
your
with the
field.
fans. I
No doubt
think
about it.
Seattle, they absolutely have the advantage. And Carolina's not a good offensive team. Who's their quarterback? Sam Darnold. And what does he usually do? He runs.
I would not normally bet that game, but when either John for GMF or the aforementioned Worldwide Blackhawk West give me a play, I play it. Unless I'm against it. When I'm on it and they like it too, I
Are you
change
playing
how I
this
bet.
bet?
For sure. I'm not a crazy ass
I know.
better. On any given Sunday, I threw out 5, so I got it down to 8 games. The difference with me is I can have 8 bets in one game. That's really what the beauty of Sports Betting Weekly on Thursday nights was, is that we would catch that hockey game that was going to end up being 7-5, and we hop on it early. We get the first period over 1.5, right? And the next thing you know, we got the first period over 2.5. We got the next period over 3.5, and it's 2-2 when they go to break on the way to being a 5-7 game. You cash all those tickets. A game like this, if they hit the first half, it goes to halftime 10-10, and Carolina is getting 2 points. I'm going to cash that bet. I'm fine. I won't even pay attention to the other part of the game. I'll know when I look at my sportsbook account because the money will be in there. I love having tickets at the casino. I hate bet online, but I live in a state that's got it set up. It's that's what are you going to do? I cannot believe how good the 2 New York teams are. I mean, I've literally been doing this for a decade, and I spent most of it bashing the Jets and the Giants. Not as much the Giants, but how many years have the Jets been good in the last decade?
Not a lot.
Yeah, so I'm having to deal with it. But of course, the Chargers, God bless them.
Oh, well, he's clutch team in football.
That's right, man. They've always been there for me. They've always been able to embarrass themselves. They shot their own quarterback in the lung. Come on now. If you wrote that for a script for a sitcom, the writer's room wouldn't let you do it because it sounded so silly. Was it this year? He hurt his arm and they were going to give him a needle?
Yep.
He's a good quarterback.
And then with Tyrod Taylor with his lung.
The first thing I got is a trend that isn't a handicapping trend. It just jumped out at me that bet against Baltimore and take the under in the first half. If you did that all year, you make a lot of money. Because the record is incredible. 12 games, that's 24 bets. It was like 22-2. I'm blessed that I'm on a few radio stations, and I try whenever possible to give you guys winners, and I believe they're winners. I'm going to give a winners. I talked to Billy Elvis. He's on Sports Rap, Lima, Ohio, and him and I, when we were on the radio back in the day, we did a live show. So he's live on the air in Ohio, and I'm live on the air in San Diego, and we did a crossover. And it was like 2,400 miles, 2,442. We called it a 2,442-mile crossover. So we're on each other's station at the same time. That's a pretty cool idea. I said there's a lot of important games. What I'm finding
This is the worst week of football. Cleveland and Cincinnati, Houston and Dallas, Minnesota and Detroit.
So I'm talking to an Ohio radio station about a Cleveland-Cincinnati game. It's a big deal. It'd be like if the Jets and the Giants were playing.
Cleveland's garbage. Cincinnati could be the number 2 seed in the AFC if they keep winning out. They're playing a Cleveland team that has a quarterback that hasn't played in 2 years. It's going to take them at least a half a season to learn the offense.
How do you think the Cleveland fans feel about watching that game Thursday night?
They saw a quarterback get lucky.
He just played quarterback like he knowed how to play quarterback since he was a kid. He was in 8th grade playing quarterback.
So wait a second.
He was in high school playing quarterback.
So watching the final play where he scored the touchdown, you think that wasn't lucky?
No, he was going to get hit. He said, I got to throw the ball. I'm going to throw it to where I think it would go. And he just threw it in the
He
work.
threw the ball up there.
Right, but
He
it
wasn't
landed
even
in the
looking.
guy's chest.
Yes.
All I'm saying is,
He wasn't even looking
you
at him.
give him a week, you let him get in the playbook, and he'll start throwing picks. He get dropped off the plane on Tuesday. They kind of rolled him out of the door, and the plane took off again. Just dropped him off and set him on his way.
As of right now, he looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback next year for the Rams because
right now,
Matthew Stafford could be done.
What he does, you got to love the guy in terms of the rah-rah.
I don't.
When it comes to being a top quarterback, he just isn't on the list.
He's not even in the top 32.
No, of course not. He got kicked out of Cleveland, then he got kicked out of Carolina, and
he'll be kicked out over there too.
How many quarterbacks have the Rams had?
This is their 4th one this year. The Stafford started the year. They had Bryce Perkins and John Wolford, and now Baker
Wonderful
Mayfield. But
quarterback class.
The Raiders have now blown 4 10-point leads at halftime. No team has done that since 1932. Josh McDaniels.
Does that go up at his wall?
Oh, it has to. First time in almost 100 years.
Honest, Josh McDaniels should have been fired after that game. How do you lose against a quarterback that's been a journeyman?
How about coaching a team that has a guy stupid enough to knock the football out of the guy's hand when he's sitting in front of a guy with stripes on his shirt?
Chaz, he wasn't even supposed to start the game. It was a game-time decision. The guy didn't even know the offense, and he beat a team coached coach that's had this team practice all week and know how to play against Baker Mayfield, and they still couldn't beat him.
Going to the next game, I have the Giants on the money line. They're winning the game against the Eagles. You remember Wes, what he said about the Eagles?
They would lose 2 more games. And I thought one of them would be last week, but not the case.
Mo from the Mo Radio Show, he calls it the WTF money, but we call it the big wheel money. You know the big wheel? The pretty girl, she's just gorgeous. 21.
Vanna White.
5'11", you know, and she's got legs
deal.
that just don't stop. And she's in front of this wheel at the very beginning of the casino. Hardly wearing any clothes, and your choices are 1, 5, 10, 20, and 100, and there's like 100, and there's like 220s, and you spin the big wheel, and then you throw a 20
that's
on
the
there.
closest thing Chaz is going to get by cheating on his wife.
Yeah, there you go. If I would ever win any money on the wheel, maybe the girl would have a shot with me, but they always take my $20. When you're taking a team that is getting a touchdown, you're basically saying something's going to happen that shouldn't have happened because otherwise they wouldn't be a touchdown underdog. But do you really remember how many weeks we've talked about the Meadowlands? When the Giants play at the Meadowlands, the games go under the number. And it's a very high number. It's like 22 out of 24. Data says it's going to be under, so I trust the data. And the only way it can go under is if it gets ugly, Philly does something stupid. A quarterback getting hurt would be shocking to you. That happens every single week in the NFL. That's a weird play for me.
I have a play and a pick. Miami and the LA Chargers. I would pick the over in this game, 53.5. 2 quarterbacks that are going to try to prove themselves on national TV. One quarterback has been told by everybody that he's not better than that other quarterback. This year, he has been, and the other quarterback has kind of fallen off, and that's Justin Herbert. I expect both quarterbacks to go out there and have a great game, and I believe both quarterbacks are going to throw at least 3 touchdowns.
We looked at Miami, and Miami on the road gives up a ton of points.
And the Chargers have so many injuries
The
defensively.
problem with that game is if the Chargers stink to bed, one team scores all the points, but it's not enough points to get the over because the other team stinks. This could end up 37-10. They flexed this game, didn't they?
Yes, they did, because they have to move the Broncos out of prime time.
This game is definitely on the over.
I think with these two teams, that's your bet. I don't trust the Chargers to score points.
Don't bet on that Seattle game. He's wrong.
Tennessee, they were embarrassed last week.
Derrick Henry couldn't run the ball.
I looked at Tennessee, and I looked at the teams that scored points at home. These teams played at Tennessee, and they were great quarterbacks, and they all scored like 20 points. So I like Jacksonville's team total under, and I think Jacksonville's going to get whacked. Now, the data shows that Jacksonville never covers against the spread. Literally 90% of the time they don't cover. Tennessee, till the game against Philly, 8 straight weeks where they won and the game went under. I would imagine if this game doesn't stay under, it's because Tennessee scores more points, but I don't see Jacksonville scoring many. So I'd like those team total unders about halfway through the game. It's hard to watch an under in the beginning because all it takes is one fumble by Tennessee deep in the end, and Jacksonville gets a quick touchdown, and it messes with your head. But if you can get to halftime and it's 14-3, and you've got a team that they're under 17 and they've only got 3 at halftime, well, then the second half's fun. When you're winning a bet and you're in no risk of losing that bet, it doesn't matter the sport. It's fun to watch.
What about the overall over-under, though? That's 41 for that game. You don't think that's a bit low?
No, because all Tennessee does is stop people from scoring, and they're not a scoring powerhouse. When I looked at the numbers, it was all U's. Tennessee games stay under the number.
I think it's Tennessee on the over in this game. I think they're going to be able to run in this game. Jacksonville has had problems against power backs. It's going to be very hard back-to-back weeks to knock off Derrick Henry.
They got to have a chip on their shoulders.
I expect Derrick Henry to get himself 2 touchdowns and close to 100 yards in this game against a Jacksonville Jaguars front 7, and in the last couple of weeks have not played well.
I like Tennessee, but I'm also adding Jacksonville team total on there. You understand the concept of all the opportunities that are out there in sports betting nowadays. You can have one handicap and opinion, and it gets you 3 or 4 bets you win.
I've got you an upset that you could bet on. Detroit knocks off Minnesota this week in Detroit.
Gave that play out. That is my best bet of the weekend is the over in that game. Everybody seems to love Detroit this week. So all you're hearing is they're the up-and-coming team, and Minnesota's getting disrespected.
Their secondary is garbage.
At the beginning of the year, Detroit was 2 different teams. If they were on the road, they were terrible, and if they were at home, they were good, and they just got a little better on the road. But at home, all they do is score points. I'm hoping this game is like 28-20 at halftime.
If the
be
Jets
happy with
had a competent offensive coordinator, the game would have been over in the third quarter. There was no way the Jets lose that game if Mike LaFleur was actually a good offensive coordinator.
They should have won that game.
They
There's no
should
doubt
have,
about it.
and Minnesota should not be 10-2. They're going into this Detroit Lions game thinking that they're better than everybody else and they're the second best team in all of the NFL. They're not. They're not even close. I wouldn't even say they're a top 5 team.
You know what I asked someone about this game earlier in the day? Which of these quarterbacks has been in a Super Bowl recently?
Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff's a better quarterback. I trust him more to make the right decision, and I think he has weapons over there. Williams is playing this week. This is his first game back from his torn ACL. I expect him to be a big part. Look at that offense. If Brown and Williams turns out to be a deep threat, you're talking about 2 dominant forces on both sides of the field.